Very good morning, students. In the last class we have completed acid rains and harmful effects of acid rains in the tropospheric pollution. In this concept we are discussing a new topic, that is smog. Smog. Smog is the combination of two terms, that is smoke and fog. Smoke and fog. Smoke is nothing but the soot particles coming from cigarette, tobacco and oil. Those are known as cigarette smoke, tobacco smoke and oil smoke. The soot particles coming from cigarette, tobacco and combustion of oils are known as smoke. We know that cigarette, the dust particles coming from cigarette are known as smoke. That is well known thing. Next one is fog. In early morning we are observing, that is create problems for the traffic, that is known as fog. If a smoke combined with the fog, the new substance formed which is known as smog. Smoke plus fog are known as smog, which is nothing but smoky fog. Next one, student. This smoky fog is an air pollutant. This smog is of two types: classical smog and photochemical smog. Classical smog. This occurs in a cool, humid climate and generally takes place in early hours of winter. Classical smog can take place cool and humid climates and generally takes place in the early hours of winter. Early hours of the winter season, that is early morning, we are observing classical smog. Next one. This classical smog is reducing smog because it is highly reducing in nature. This classical smog is London smog because first notice in that city. That's why this classical smog is also known as London smog. This classical smog is also known as sulfurous smog because smoke plus fog plus sulfur dioxide is nothing but classical smog. Due to presence of the sulfur dioxide, this classical smog is also known as sulfurous smog. Next one, student. Photochemical smog. First one, which occurs in warm and dry climate, and generally takes place in hot season during sunny days. The photochemical smog can be formed. Here photo means sunlight. Photo means sunlight. Therefore, in the presence of sunlight, that is summer season, in sunny days, this photochemical smog will be takes place. Next one, student. This photochemical smog is oxidizing smog because it is highly oxidizing in nature. This photochemical smog is Los Angeles smog because first notice in that city. Next one. It is formed in the presence of smoke, dust, oxides of nitrogen, hydrocarbons and sunlight. It is formed in the presence of smoke, dust, oxides of nitrogen, sunlight and hydrocarbons. Now in detail we are discussing how the photochemical smog can be formed, what are the harmful effects of photochemical smog, how can you prevent the formation of the photochemical smog. We are discussing. First one, student, in detail this concept is there in your syllabus, that is the formation of photochemical smog. Like this, student. The nitrogen and oxygen present in the atmosphere react with one another to form nitric oxide. The nitric oxide react with oxygen to form nitrogen dioxide. The nitrogen dioxide formed react with the sunlight present in the atmosphere to form nitric oxide and oxygen. These two are highly reactive species. Nitric oxide and oxygen. That is a highly reactive species. The reactive species react with oxygen present in the atmosphere to form O3, known as ozone. The formed ozone react with nitric oxide present in the atmosphere to form nitrogen dioxide and oxygen molecule. Nitrogen dioxide and oxygen molecule. Therefore, the nitrogen dioxide and ozone molecule, are highly oxidizing in nature, which can be used to oxidize the hydrocarbons releases by the combustion of the fuels in the atmosphere. Hydrocarbons releases by the combustion of the fuels in the atmosphere. Therefore, student, the methane hydrocarbons react with the ozone, O3 to form formaldehyde, HCHO plus water molecule. The nitrogen dioxide react with the ozone and the hydrocarbons. Here, both nitrogen dioxide and ozone react with the hydrocarbons. It can form peroxyacetyl nitrate, which is also known as PAN. PAN stands for peroxyacetyl nitrate. CH3, C11O, OO, NO2. Very important term, student, in examination point of view. What is full form of PAN? Peroxyacetyl nitrate. Structure of PAN: CH3, C11O, OO, NO2. In examination they will ask, how many peroxy bonds are present in PAN? Only one peroxy bond is present between the oxygen atom. What is the hybridization of carbon atom in PAN, that is peroxyacetyl nitrate? The first carbon is having sp3 hybridization, the second carbon is having sp2 hybridization. The first carbon is having sp3 because around carbon 4 sigma bonds are present. Here the second carbon is having sp2 hybridization because around this carbon 3 sigma bonds are present. Hence the carbon atoms having hybridization sp3 and sp2 respectively. It is the nothing but formation of the photochemical smog. Copy this, student. Okay, students, next continuation. Harmful effects of photochemical smog. Ozone and peroxyacetyl nitrate, that is PAN, present in the smog are eye irritant. In competitive point of view, they will ask student, which of the following is eye irritant? The ozone and PAN, peroxyacetyl nitrate, present in the photochemical smog, acts as eye irritant. Second point, due to oxidizing nature of the smog, it easily attacks the metals, resulting corrosion. The photochemical smog is highly oxidizing in nature. Due to this reason, why? Because photochemical smog contains ozone and nitrogen dioxide. Once again, student, the photochemical smog is highly oxidizing in nature. Due to presence of two components, ozone and nitrogen dioxide, they are oxidizing in nature. Due to this oxidizing nature of photochemical smog, the metals easily undergo corrosion. That is, it is easily attacks the metal, resulting corrosion. The photochemical smog easily attacks the metals, resulting corrosion. Due to oxidizing nature of the photochemical smog. Classical smog cannot oxidize the metals. Classical smog cannot corrosion the metals. Why? Because that is reducing in nature. In examination they will ask, which of the following smog can undergo corrosion of the metals? Which is smog corrode the metals? Classical smog, photochemical smog, both, none of the above. Photochemical smog attacks the metals, resulting corrosion. Clear, student? Right. Next one. The photochemical smog causes cracking of rubber and damage to paints and cloths because of high affinity with the ozone molecule. It can easily cracking the rubber. The photochemical smog easily cracking the rubber, that is break down the rubber, and damage to paints also, as well as the cloths. The reason is high affinity with ozone molecule. The rubber is having high affinity with ozone molecule. Due to this reason, the cracking of rubber will be takes place. Next one, it causes throat and nose irritation. The photochemical smog causes nose and throat irritation, and it dries out the protective membrane of nose and throat, and infections with the body ability to fight against infection. Very simple, student. Here it is a very important harmful effect. That is, it dries out the protective membrane of nose and throat. It is not only affect nose and throat, it also dries out the protective membrane present in the nose and throat. Our throat contains our throat contains the protective membrane that can be dries out. Our nose contains protective membrane that can be dries out. That is, the wet condition membrane can be converted into dry because of the photochemical smog. And that is the second student. And interferes with the body ability to fight against infection. Our human body is having normal resistance power against infection. For example, any cold cough is there, without medicine, within 1 or 2 days, we will get recovered. Why? Because the reason is the reason is our body contains own immune system, own ability to recover from the small diseases. The photochemical smog also interferes with the immune system. That is, student, the photochemical smog interferes with the body ability to fight against infection. Here 3 sub-points, students. Once again I will repeat. It causes throat and nose irritation. It causes throat and nose irritation. And it dries out the protective membrane. Present in nose and throat. Similarly, it interferes with the body ability to fight against infection. These are the 4 harmful effects, students. Okay. Right. Next one. Control of photochemical smog. How can you control this photochemical smog? Because of control of photochemical smog, all these harmful effects will be reduced. First one, student, using catalytic converters in automobiles prevent the release of the nitrogen dioxide and hydrocarbons. Generally, students, in the automobiles, due to combustion of the fuels, hydrocarbons and nitrogen dioxide, some gases releases. These can causes photochemical smog. Nitrogen dioxide releases. This nitrogen dioxide is one of the precursor of the photochemical smog. If nitrogen dioxide is not present, the formation of photochemical smog does not take place. Therefore, using catalytic converters in automobiles, like platinum and rhodium, prevent the release of nitrogen dioxide and hydrocarbon. These two are the reasons, are the precursor for the formation of photochemical smog. If these two are prevented, then automatically the photochemical smog control will be takes place. The photochemical smog formation control will be takes place. Next one, here reaction, student. C5H12 plus 8 moles of oxygen in the presence of platinum gives carbon dioxide and water molecule. Here what happens, student? The hydrocarbons releases due to combustion of fuels in automobiles react with oxygen in the presence of platinum, converted into carbon dioxide and water molecule. That is, C5H12 is converted into carbon dioxide and water. Hence, the concentration of hydrocarbon will be reduced. Because in the presence of the catalyst, it can be converted into carbon dioxide and water molecule. Similarly, student, the nitric oxide react with the carbon monoxide. The nitric oxide react with the carbon monoxide in the presence of rhodium catalyst. RH means rhodium catalyst. rhodium catalyst, it can form carbon dioxide plus nitrogen. Carbon dioxide plus nitrogen. We know the students, the nitric oxide is one of the important component for the formation of the photochemical smog. Just to recall that information, nitric oxide react with oxygen to form nitrogen dioxide. That nitrogen dioxide is one of the precursor for the formation of the photochemical smog. If this nitric oxide is prevented, if it is not available, then nitrogen dioxide does not take place. If nitrogen dioxide does not take place, the photochemical smog will be controlled. The photochemical smog will be controlled. Therefore, the carbon monoxide present in the atmosphere or releases due to combustion of the fuels react with the nitric oxide. In the presence of the rhodium catalyst, it can form carbon dioxide plus nitrogen. Carbon dioxide plus nitrogen. Like this, we can control the formation of the photochemical smog. Next one, student. Plants such as pyrus metabolize the oxides of the nitrogen. If nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide is available, then the formation of photochemical smog will be takes place. But if you use the plants like this, if you crop the plants like pyrus metabolize the oxides of dinitrogen. That is, the oxides of nitrogen can be metabolized in the presence of the plants pinus and pyrus. Next one, student. Addition of free radical scavengers. Like diethyl hydroxylamine DEHA, NC2H5 taken twice OH, which combines with the precursors of photochemical smog. Generally, student, if any substance is added that can react with the precursors of the photochemical smog, like hydrocarbons and nitrogen dioxide, then these can be converted into another form of product which are not available for the formation of the photochemical smog. That is, addition of free radical scavengers like dihydroxylamine DEHA, which combines with the precursors like nitrogen dioxide and hydrocarbons, then the formation of the photochemical smog will be controlled. Right, student? In competitive point of view, they will ask like this, student: what is the chemical substance used as free radical scavengers? To control photochemical smog. That is diethyl hydroxylamine. Very important, student. Diethyl hydroxylamine can be used for the control of the photochemical smog. Copy this, student. Okay, next continuation, students. Stratospheric pollution. Stratosphere is the second layer of Earth atmosphere, and ozone is the main constituent in this region. Due to this, it is known as ozonosphere. In examination, they will ask which of the following is called ozonosphere: stratosphere, troposphere, mesosphere, thermosphere. Stratosphere contains main constituent is ozone molecule. Due to this reason, stratosphere is also known as ozonosphere. Once again, stratosphere is the second layer of Earth atmosphere. We know the sequence, student. First is troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere. It is the second layer of the Earth atmosphere. And ozone, that is O3, is the main constituent in this stratosphere region. Due to this, it is known as ozonosphere. Next one. The ultraviolet rays responsible for the interconversion of oxygen and ozone molecule. From the sun, the ultraviolet rays, IR rays, so many rays are coming. The ultraviolet rays which are coming from the sun is responsible for the interconversion of the oxygen to ozone molecule, and ozone to oxygen molecule, Interconversion will be takes place. This is known as oxygen ozone cycle. Here, student, first one. The oxygen gas at a wavelength of ultraviolet light, 120 to 210 nanometers, it can decompose to oxygen atomic gas plus oxygen atomic gas. the oxygen atomic gas react with O2 gas, it can form O3, that is ozone gas. O3, that is ozone gas. The ozone gas react with ultraviolet light at a wavelength 220 to 320 nanometer. 220 to 320 nanometer. It can form oxygen gas plus O gas. Oxygen gas plus oxygen atomic gas. Oxygen gas plus oxygen atomic gas. Here what happens, student? The oxygen can be converted to ozone. The ozone can be converted to oxygen. The ozone can be converted to the oxygen. Ozone can be converted to the oxygen. This is known as oxygen ozone cycle. In competitive examination, student, this question is given. What is the first step in oxygen ozone cycle? They are given 3 reactions and another reaction is given. The first step is ozone is converted to oxygen atomic gas at a wavelength of ultraviolet light 120 to 210 nanometers. Like this questions they are given, student. Let next one, student. The ozone layer prevent the ultraviolet rays to reach the earth. The ultraviolet rays are very harmful rays. The exposure of ultraviolet rays can lead the skin cancer, cataracts, and weakens the immune system. The ultraviolet rays coming from the sun directly falls on the skin of the human beings. What happens, student? It is very dangerous. It is very dangerous. It can cause skin cancer, cataracts. Sometimes it can affect the immune system of the human body. Immune system of the human body also. Right. Due to ultraviolet rays, what happens, student? The thickness of the ozone layer is reduced. The thickness of the ozone layer will be reduced. This is known as depletion of ozone layer. Depletion of ozone layer. Generally, student, in the troposphere, some layer is present. That is known as ozone layer. The thickness of the ozone layer can be measured in the form of the Dapson units. Remember, student, in examination they will ask the thickness of the ozone layer is measured in the form of the Dapson units. Therefore, the ultraviolet rays coming from the sun falls on the stratosphere. Then what happens, student? Falls on the human beings. It can cause skin cancer, cataracts, and affects immune system. But in between the earth and the ultraviolet rays, some other part is present, that is ozonosphere. That is ozone is present. But due to ultraviolet rays falling regularly on the ozone, the thickness of the ozone layer will be reduced. The thickness of the ozone layer will be decreases. Hence, what happens? Small holes and will be formed on the ozone sphere. Small holes are formed in the ozone molecule. Hence, the ultraviolet ray reaches the earth and affect the human beings. Once again, student, it is the earth. If the stratosphere is present, it is the earth. My hand is earth. Stratosphere is present and ultraviolet rays are coming from the sun. These ozone layer prevent the fall down of the ultraviolet rays on the earth. Hence, it is clear that the harmful ultraviolet rays coming from the sun does not fall on the human beings, because the ozone layer present in the stratosphere, the ozone prevent the ultraviolet rays to reach the earth surface. But so many years onwards, the ultraviolet rays falls on the ozone layer. Hence, thickness of the ozone layer will be reduced. Clear, students? Right. Next one. Once again, this point I will repeat. The ozone layer prevent the ultraviolet rays to reach the earth. The exposure of ultraviolet rays can lead to the skin cancer, cataracts, and weakness of the immune system. Due to these ultraviolet rays, the thickness of the O3 layer will be reduced. This is known as depletion of ozone layer. The phenomenon in which the thickness of the ozone layer is reduced due to the continuous exposure of ultraviolet rays on the stratosphere are known as depletion of ozone layer. Next one. The main chemical substituents which are responsible for the depletion of ozone layer will be CFCs and nitric oxide. That is chlorofluorocarbons and nitric oxide. First one student, CF2Cl2 in the presence of ultraviolet light, it can form chlorine radical and CF2Cl radical. Chlorine radical and CF2Cl radical. Chlorine radical and CF2Cl radical and CF2Cl radical. The chlorine radical react with ozone, that is O3. It can form ClO radical plus oxygen. ClO radical plus oxygen. The ClO radical react with oxygen atom. It can form chlorine radical plus oxygen. Chlorine radical plus oxygen molecule. Here what happens student? The ozone is converted to oxygen. When ozone is converted to oxygen means what happens student? The molecular formula of ozone is changes to oxygen means the composition will be changes. The composition changes means the thickness of the ozone layer will be decreases. The thickness of the ozone layer will be decreases. Right students, these are the three steps involved in the depletion of the ozone layer. CF2Cl2 in the presence of ultraviolet light, chlorine radical, CF2Cl radical. The chlorine radical formed in the first step react with the ozone molecule. It can form ClO radical plus oxygen. The ClO radical formed in the second step react with the active oxygen atom. It can form chlorine and oxygen. That is, ozone is converted to oxygen molecule. Ozone is converted to oxygen molecule. Here remember student, one important points in competitive examination, this question is given. What is the first step involved in the depletion of ozone layer? These three equations they are given. This everyone thinks that depletion of ozone layer means ozone react with chlorine radical. But the first step is chlorofluorocarbons. Chlorofluorocarbons CF2Cl2 react with ultraviolet light. It can form chlorine radical and CF2Cl radical. Their options are given like this: formation of chlorine radical, formation of the ClO radical, formation of oxygen, decomposition of ozone. Like that options they are given. The formation of chlorine radical is the first step in the depletion of the ozone layer. The main chemicals responsible for the depletion of ozone layer is CF2Cl2, chlorofluorocarbons. Another substance student, it is NO, nitric oxide, which is coming from supersonic jet engines. In primary and secondary pollutants concept we are discussing. The nitric oxide which is coming from the supersonic jet engines. In exam they will ask, name the oxide of nitrogen. Which is coming from supersonic jet engines, that is NO, known as nitric oxide. The nitric oxide react with ozone. It can form nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen molecule. Here what happens student? The ozone present in the stratosphere. Generally supersonic jet engines are moving in the stratosphere. Stratosphere contains ozone. The stratosphere nitric oxide releases by supersonic jet engines. Both are react with one another to form nitrogen dioxide and oxygen molecule. Here our concept is the O3 is converted to oxygen. The composition of oxygen can be changes. The composition of ozone can be changes to oxygen. Hence that is known as depletion of ozone layer. The nitric oxide react with ozone. It can form nitrogen dioxide and oxygen molecule. Here depletion of ozone layer will be takes place. Clear students? Right. This last point you can remember, chlorofluorocarbons and nitric oxide responsible for the depletion of the ozone layer. Copy this student. Next continuation students, harmful effects of ozone layer depletion. First one student, ultraviolet radiation increases the temperature of the earth. And affect the environment. Second one, ultraviolet radiation causes skin cancer because if due to the depletion of ozone layer, the ultraviolet radiation reaches the earth's surface, causes the skin cancer, cataract, and affect the immune system. Already we are discussing student these 3 points. Next one, the ultraviolet radiation affect the plant proteins, causes depletion of chlorophyll and harmful to mutation of cells Fourth one, student, the ultraviolet radiation causes evaporation of surface water, decreasing soil moisture content, Generally, the intense ultraviolet radiation causes evaporation of seawater, then water content will be decreases. At the same time, it also decreases the soil moisture content. For agriculture, the moisture contains, the soil contains some moisture, content. That is also decreases due to the fall of the ultraviolet radiation on the earth. Next one, the ultraviolet radiation damage the paints and fibers. The paints and fibers falls affected by the fibers. The ultraviolet radiation falls on the paints and fibers. What happens? That the damage will be takes place. Next one, student. The ultraviolet radiation causes reduction in crop yield, obstruction of photosynthesis, disrupting the food chain. Due to the fall down of ultraviolet radiation on the soil, moisture content decreases. Moisture content. Due to this reason, the crop yield will be reduced. For example, mirchi is there, mirchi crop. Generally 20 quintals is there, but due to the fall down of ultraviolet radiation on the earth, the moisture content in the soil decreases. Then instead of 20, 10 quintal only will be obtained. Then the reduction of the crop yield takes place. Not only mirchi, cotton and every crop will be reduced due to the presence of the ultraviolet radiation. Next one, student, obstruction of the photosynthesis. The ultraviolet radiations are very harmful. These affect the photosynthesis also. Next one, student, disrupting the food chain. The food chain will be disturbed. The last one, student, damage the genetic material, that is DNA, leading to the mutation. The ultraviolet radiation also damage the genetic information DNA, leading to the mutation. These are the 7 harmful effects of the depletion of ozone layer. With this, stratospheric pollution is completed, student. Copy this, student.